Hi, I'm David Precision from DYoga With Me. Welcome to our three-part video series on an introduction to yoga for absolute beginners. This is video 1. We'll be covering things like how to sit properly, how to use props properly, how to know when you're doing a stretch right, and how to flow and how to breathe. All of these are essential components of yoga that once you learn them, you'll be able to take them into any class that you do, or at least most classes that you do, depending on the style. If you want to learn more about yoga as a beginner, check out our blog article on Yoga for Absolute Beginners, everything that you need to know before you begin. And we'll put a link below this video so you can go there directly. Enjoy the class. Get a stack of blankets. You will need a lot of blankets and pillows or pillows in this class. Make sure that you're comfortable. At any point, you can pause the video if you need to. And also, make sure that you're wearing very comfortable clothing, stretchy if possible. Sweatpants or yoga pants, t-shirt, tank top, any of that will do. And enjoy the class. We're going to start together making you comfortable sitting. In yoga, you will be sitting cross-legged or on your heels at some points. So you'll be able to do this with me, and then whenever you do a yoga class later on, you can apply these principles, okay? So I'm going to make you real comfortable, and you don't necessarily have to do all of this in every class that you do in the future, but at least you have an idea of what works for you. So you're going to grab a blanket, or if you have a pillow, a firm one preferably, slip that under your bum. And then I want you to give yourself more height than you think you need. So 2 blankets are going to go under my bum. Okay, so the idea here, and there's a few things that you want to get sensory feedback for. First of all, how you're sitting. So you want to be placed so that your sitting bones are directly down or that you're on the front edge of your sitting bones. And if you place your hand on your lower back, you want it to feel like there is a slight curve forward. It's the way that our lower back is meant to curve, so it's the healthy position for our spine. And thirdly, you want the knees so that they're below your hip bones. If they're up high, what tends to happen, and this is caused by tightness in your hips and lower back, what tends to happen is that your lower back will round, your pelvis will tilt back, and sitting this way will become very uncomfortable because your back will get strained. So if your knees are too high, if your lower back is rounded, if you find you're on the back edge of your sitting bones, then get more height. So go ahead and add more. Prop yourself up higher. And don't be worried about feeling like you're too high up. That's okay. What we're going for is comfort. Now, if you do find that you're sitting way too high and that if you do anything, twisting, side bending, forward bending, it's going to be awkward for you, then you sit in a chair and you do as much from a chair as possible. But ideally, you're able to sit cross-legged when the class or when the teacher asks you to. Okay, so the fourth thing I want you to pay attention to is the positioning of your feet. When you're sitting cross-legged, most teachers will do this in class. They'll get you to sit with one foot furthest away to start, and then they'll spend a certain amount of time like that because it affects your hips differently depending on where your foot is. And then they'll get you to switch, and then you'll do a few other things for a similar amount of time so that you balance it out. So why don't we start with the right foot in front. I'm your mirror image. Obviously, this is my left foot. I'm mirroring you so you can follow where my feet are, okay? And for the rest of the class, I won't be mirroring you, but I just want you to feel like you understand where your feet are. Okay, so let's reorient ourselves to body position. Now come onto the front edge, just barely onto the front edge of your sitting bones. Feel your lower back lift. You might want to place your hand there to feel that lift. And now I want you to press your shoulder blades into your back so that your collarbone broadens, and then place your head directly on top of your spine. Alignment is such an important part of yoga. You want to use your body properly so that the joints, the spine, the muscles are all working to their best ability efficiently. Okay, so one more thing to pay attention to. So let's say that your knees are hanging out to the sides and they don't feel comfortable that way. You can place something underneath your thighs. So you can grab blocks or pillows, depending on what you have, and just slip them underneath at the right height so that they can rest on top of something. So I have these blankets and blocks conveniently placed to my side, and that's what I'm going to do. So now they feel supported. Lastly, your ankles. Many people have ankles that are a little bit bony, or bonier than other people's ankles, and so resting there might feel like they're uncomfortable. And this is what you do with your ankles. You take one of your blankets, and this will depend on the thickness of the blanket. I generally know what I need, so you might want to unfold your blanket a little bit first so that it doesn't end up being too thick. Then you roll it up. You start really tight with your roll, and you roll it up from one end to the other so you have a nice long tube shape. Then you slip that tube underneath both of your ankles or the lower shin bones so that they end up resting on top and your ankles are lifted off the floor. Okay, and you might need to adjust what is under your knees after that. Slip it a little bit closer. Okay, so let's reorient ourselves, lifting the pelvis, coming onto the front edge of the sitting bones. Shoulder blades lift the heart, lift up through the top of the head. Now, this is called Sukhasana. This is our cross-legged seated position. And this is also your seated position for meditation, if you do meditate. Okay, so let's sit like this for a few moments and just feel the lift up through the top of the head. And we want to feel like the sitting bones are rooted, but the energy is moving up so that we feel tall and lengthened. And the focus is so often on length when we're doing yoga poses, to create the stretch, to achieve the optimal position for our spine and our joints. Okay, so let's try to add a few poses here. So we're going to start with side bends. And this is where I introduce a little bit about how to stretch. So each pose has a sensation to it. And typically it will appear in a similar area for most people. Okay, everybody's bodies are different, so you might feel a little bit different than somebody else. But for example, if you do a side stretch, if I side stretch this way, you will most likely feel a stretch on this side of your torso, okay? As a general example. Okay, so let's try this. Place your left hand on the floor to your side. So again, I'm not mirroring you now, so you'll be doing exactly what I'm doing. And then inhale, raise your right arm straight up. And now energize that arm. Reach through the fingertips. Anchor your right hip, just like you're nailing it into the floor. And once that's stable, exhale, slide the left fingers out and move into your side bend. Now keep that arm long. You can come down onto the palm if you need to. And again, your anchor point is your right hip, so you want to make sure it stays rooted down heavily. And then eventually you're moving so far into the stretch that you feel something on the right side. You feel a pull, like the muscle is being stretched somewhere. If you need to, you can bend the elbow to sink a little bit more into it, but keep that right hip anchored and keep the top arm firm and reaching strong through the fingertips. Now let's take one more breath in here. And then exhale once more. And the next breath in, come up and lower the right hand down to the ground. Okay, let's go to the other side. Inhale, raise the left arm up. You'll notice that we're moving with the breath. Always inhale before and then exhale into the stretch. Go ahead. Right hand slides out. Anchor your left hip. Reach to the fingertips with a firm elbow, lengthening. Take one more breath in here. As long as the breath is flowing, your body is not stiffening up. So that's a really good reference point. Okay, exhale. Inhale up and lower the left hand down. Okay, place the hands on the thighs. Sit up nice and tall and find your position again. Slight front of sitting bones, so the pelvis is upright. Shoulder blades press into the heart, so the heart is lifting. Place the head right on top of the spine and feel nice and long from the tailbone up through the top of the head. Okay, so now we're moving into a twist. Again, anchor point. So your anchor point, because your pelvis is touching the ground, your pelvis is your anchor. So that means in a twist, as opposed to a side bend where you anchor it down into the floor to prevent it from tilting with the spine, you anchor it down, but you do it in a way that prevents it from twisting. Okay, so let's try that. Take a breath in, step your left hand on the floor behind you, right hand goes to the left thigh. Lengthen up, and now exhale, make sure the pelvis doesn't tilt. Start with your lower back and exhale, turn to the left, then the rib cage, then the shoulders, and then look over the left shoulder to complete the twist. So you're making the twist all the way from this tailbone, all the way up to the base of the skull. Okay, so next breath in, see if you can lift up a little bit higher, creating more length in the spine, staying on the front edge of the sitting bones, and then exhale, see if you can turn back a little bit more and keep the pelvis from turning. So you can actually pull the right hip back as you twist everything else to the left. Now notice where you feel it. You might feel some gentle pulling throughout the spine from bottom to top. Okay, again, coming out on the inhalation, go ahead and inhale and come out, and right to the other side. So left hand to the thigh of the right leg, right hand behind you, and then inhale and lift. Notice how your sitting bones are rooted down. And then exhale, pull the left hip back, and then turn from the lower back, ribs, shoulders, head, keeping the head right on top of the spine. Let's take one more breath here, one more complete breath. And remembering that is your breath, that is your reference point for tension. If you're holding your breath, it likely means that you're tensing your body needlessly. Okay, next breath in, come out, place your hands on the legs, and sit up nice and tall. Okay, now take a breath in, lift the heart a little bit higher, and this time when you exhale, walk the hands forward. Place them on the ground if you can. If you can't, then they rest on your shins or your calves, and let the head drop forward. So this brings the stretch a little bit more into your hips. And now you can gently rock from side to side.